Well, thank you so much for taking the time this early in the morning, I guess, over there. And
it's not better. It's 9 o'clock. It's 9:06 now as we speak.
That's not a time for a country and a movie star.
Well, I'm grateful to you for knowing that fact. But also, I'm not a movie star. I'm on TV.
Yeah, it's funny because I think here in Europe and in Germany we don't make that much of a distinction between a movie star and a TV star. And
I guess they don't much anymore either. So fine, I won't stop you.
Now you're gonna be over here pretty soon, introducing your new record and playing live. Do you have actually any connection at all to Germany?
Well, I've visited a number of times, and mostly the times I've visited, I've played music there, and it's been my great joy to be there. First time I went, I just posted yesterday on my socials. If you go over there, get out, you won't believe it. It's me, but I look like I'm 8 or 9. But I was graduated from college, and I went out to Los Angeles to become an actor. And I had saved up a little bit of money by doing carpentry and that kind of thing, construction. And within maybe 2 months, 3 months, I was already flat broke. I had no money. So I didn't have enough money to stay, and I didn't have enough money to go home. So I went in the newspaper and I found a game show. And this is a video of that game show, and it was my finest moment on the game show. It was the speed round, 1 minute. And I was just out of my head, and I got all these answers right, and that's how I won. But the long story short, I walked away with $34,000 in cash and prizes. And this was back in 1989, so that would be a lot more now, whatever you'd multiply that by, maybe. In any event, one of the things I won was a very, very high-end trip, 1 week in Paris. I had never seen anywhere. So I went to the producers and I said, my girlfriend and I, we really appreciate this trip, but if I'm going to go all that way, it doesn't make sense we're just a couple kids. All that fancy stuff is going to be wasted on us. How about 3 weeks, medium to low class housing, just get us a Eurail pass. And we went all over Europe, or did a number of cities in Europe. And one of them, of course, we had to stick on there, Germany. And I promise it wasn't only because it was Oktoberfest. It might have been a little bit because it was Oktoberfest. So that was our first taste of Germany. And I didn't get to go back for a long while till I went back after playing Deacon Claiborne. Since then, I've been a number of times, including the C2C Festival in Berlin, right before the whole world shut down. So it was one of my last great performing memories before the COVID lockdowns. And I'm thrilled to be coming back now to Hamburg and Stuttgart and Munich and Cologne, and to get to play my music, to get to play this album again. You didn't expect that answer, did you?
No. But, I'm talking to a pro, so,
Well, you're talking to a guy that wanted a trip to Germany on again.
Now you want a trip to Paris, actually, but then, you had the better choice. Now, still, love ain't pretty. It seems to me that, although you were always visible and there was always music, it seems to me that this record has been a long time coming. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct, yeah. When you think about the fact that I've been a singer-songwriter my whole life, even in back before I went to... I didn't become an actor till I was... doing the game show meant that I could stay there. So I was about 24 25 maybe before I got my first acting job. And in any event, the music went back much further. So there's that. And then there's the fact that in college I was in a band, and I loved it so much I stayed an extra year. But when my fellow bandmates did not want to do music for a career, they went on to be doctors and lawyers and things like that. But I said, that's not for me. So I went out to Los Angeles to see if I could do some acting, but I always figured I would run into a band there and I would keep doing music. I did not. One of the first things I did is I got to play Buddy Holly in London in the musical Buddy.
Yeah.
And so I got to use my music to while I did the acting on stage. And later I was on Whose Line Is It Anyway, the improv show out of England that went to the United States. So I was always singing on that. There was always music. I never stopped writing. I never stopped. But it wasn't until I finally got the role of Deacon Claiborne on Nashville, the TV show Nashville, that I came to Nashville. And by then I was a kid in a candy store. This was a dream come true. I was in Music City. So I started writing with so many great writers and playing music with so many great players and producers. Over the years there, I put out an enormous number of singles.
Yeah.
One year, I put out a brand new single every week for 54 weeks. And you just don't do that. It's ridiculous. Nobody does that. In fact, it was a Guinness World Record. That's how ridiculous it was. Why would you do that? But that was me making the most of being in Music City. That was me just wanting to really dive in and make sure that if my show got canceled and I had to leave, that I never looked back and said, I didn't do all that I could. I didn't make the most of that situation. Yeah. Those years, there's a famous book. I'm trying to remember the author. Anyway, it talks about 10,000 hours of study on something. Once you've done something for 10,000 hours, you shift into another gear of how good you are at it and how much ability and what you're able to say, especially in a creative way. I did my 10,000 hours on those singles. So it was 10 years later, and it just felt like time to do the album. For me, the album has always been more special than the single. A single's like a sketch in a sketch comedy, or a single is like a scene. But a movie is what I think of when I think of an album. Like so many scenes that come together, and the movie starts you in one place and takes you on this journey. And so I had such respect for them. I think in some ways it paralyzed me out. There was a lot of, who am I? What do I want to say? So finally, after all these years, all this time, I knew exactly who I was, and I knew exactly what I wanted to say. And that album was Love Ain't Pretty.
Ah, nice. But tell me something. When you left college for LA and you thought you might hit a band or join a band somewhere, that wasn't country. You're not talking about country music.
Well, you're right. You're very right. At that time, I was playing in a band. Mostly we were a cover band. We did a lot of covers. So we were playing U2, REM, The Police, Talking Heads, Bruce Springsteen, on and on and on. We did maybe one or two country songs. But that's more about where I was in college and what the people in the parties wanted to hear at that point. Right now, you go to a college party, they're playing country music so often, very often. But back then, that's what they were playing. But before that, when I was a kid, that's when I knew country music and was raised on it by my father, who played so much. My mother played Chris Christopherson and Kenny Rogers. My dad played Waylon Jennings and Hank Williams. And so they taught me early on about country music, so that after I went to Los Angeles, it probably wasn't until I got married and started having kids, that when you got the little kids in the car seat, you can't be playing Hell's Bells on the AC/DC.
Are you surprised?
No, I know you can't. My wife did not want our kids running around yelling Hell's Bells. So, but I also grew to love country, that 90s country, and then that 2000s country, really. And I realized that was more how my music was. It was more literal. It told more stories in some sense than pop rock or pop or rock does. That country song always able to get to my heart. So that's the genre I ended up in. But you tell me, when you listen to Love Ain't Pretty, you're also hearing rock in there. Yeah. You're hearing a little R&B's and soulful moments.
Yeah.
Having a little bit of beach music and reggae. It's all of those things I've loved for so long. They're in there. It's just all in the form of an album that's country.
You know, your record is diverse. That's true. Totally. And I like that. But could you say that, once you're country, you're always country, you're sort of trapped in the Nashville system, and, you're famous through Nashville, and you gave the whole show, your face and everything, and music.
Well, people that know me, that's what they know me for. Although some know me now for Outer Banks. And that's gone pretty well too, where I play a very bad father. But never plays a single song. But you're right. Country has, I don't know, I just think more country has a hold on it. But I also feel that somewhere along the line, some of these genres are less defined than they used to be. the crossovers that, especially now with whether it's country and rock, or country and hip hop, or hip hop and rock goes way back in those crossing lines. And so I think it's funny though, because when you put your album out, when you go up to whether it's the streaming services or which radio station's going to play you, then and only then do they say, okay, pick a line. When I'm making music, I'm never like, okay, I'm going to write a country song today. Hey, everybody, we're going to record a country song. It's never that. It's, we're going to record a song today. It's only later that they make you pick a lane.
Yeah, most likely. Was it, you had pretty much, I guess, sort of a respect for doing this record. How hard was it really for you to do it? How long did it take you? How, did you record it by yourself, or did you record the room?
This is a really great question. If you have this respect for it, and if I had what my father used to call paralysis of analysis. That means you don't move because you're thinking about it too much. And what I've always found with paralysis of analysis is you might think that it will affect the actual doing, but I found it doesn't. So this is my message to anybody out there that has this thing in their mind. I don't care if it's that book you always wanted to write. I don't care if it's the song you always wanted to write, if it's the album you always, whatever it is. I don't care if it's the trip, to Nepal, to mountain climb. Begin. It's the part before the beginning where you get locked up. And so write these small steps, and once you begin, then it gains its own momentum. For me, the beginning, the true beginning of this was when my publisher was nice enough to put me in touch with a guy I already knew, but had never talked with in terms of production. His name was Marshall Altman, and he was the producer of this album. And it was a very strange thing. From the second I met this other person that had enthusiasm for these songs and had ideas about how to do them, we sat down and just talked. From there, it's like pushing a big boat into a river, and you're pushing, and some days you give up, and you're pushing, and then finally you go, oh, and you get it in the river, and the current just takes it. And that's how I felt. Once we started, it was easy and it was fun. It was a joy from the pre-production, which we did a ton of, to the time we were in the studio with these players who immediately got every song. From there on, it was an incredible ride. So I promised myself I'm going to remember that when everything is dry and you don't feel like there's any there, begin anyway.
Yeah. I understand that.
You do? Have you had things like that yourself?
I wrote 3 books, but nobody cares. Doesn't matter. But I did it, so
I can't even begin to tell you how much respect I had for that. I had no real reason to really have such respect for you until now that I know.
Hang on, there's some respect. Roll it. There
you go. I'm not kidding, but seriously, I respect that so much because people don't know the difficulty of sitting down. I assume you typed on a computer, or did you write with a pencil, or what?
I wrote the first page of the first book, I think 25 times. So I know what you mean.
But you started it and you were guiding it. That is so great to me. I'll have to look those up. What are they? Nonfiction or fiction? What are they?
There are 2 are fiction. One is nonfiction. One is in English, actually. So I translated it myself. It's a very small company. Very small. It doesn't matter. It's been years.
It does matter for anybody else out there hearing this. Talking about what's the thing you want to do?
We're talking about your product, not my product.
Yes, but I'm just saying, if the 2 of us can put out this stuff, anybody can do it.
Oh, well, it's nice. But that's kind of interesting. You've done so many TV shows. You've done movies. And probably when something like that gets released, you're kind of nervous. You want to know how the critics are, what the people think. But this time it's personal with the record. That's all you. So is the excitement much more? Are you much more nervous? Or have you been before the record, when the record came out?
I actually think maybe it's because of my age and where I am that I'm much less nervous. I don't I know that I did the best I could on every one of these songs, and I know that that's all I can do. So I'm sort of immune to the other stuff. Maybe I'm old enough that I've had enough great reviews and enough terrible reviews to know that they never really sink you. They never really stop you. They can if you let them. I had a friend who posted a little singing online and got a lot of flack about it. Got some critics saying some bad things. So he's just stopped. I said, why did you stop? He said, some people said some. I said, you can't let that affect you, man. Who cares? That's just people on a phone. You can't give a stranger that much power over you. Having said that, does it move me? Look, if my music doesn't move somebody, number one, that's okay. It's, different music for different people. Number two, they're wrong. No, but the thing is, it's the ones, somehow I've developed an ear for hearing the people that it does contact. I am out here sending out, how we have these, I don't know if you know this, I think you do, we have these satellites just sending out messages to the stars, sending them out to the planets, sending them out into the universe. They don't get a whole lot of answers. There's not a whole lot of, so that's what your music can feel like. All it takes is one comment or one person walking up to you, or I have a YouTube of a video called Somewhere in the Sunshine. The comments of the original video were so moving and so attached to this song that I did a second video with the comments in it.
Yeah.
So that is all I'm after is, I've said it a million times, I'm no good at perfection. I don't have a shot at perfection. I'm aiming at connection. So I'm so excited when I get any connection that I don't need everyone to love it. And by the way, my favorite connection, and many of my favorite connections have been in Germany. Are in those rooms. Somebody was asking me about German audiences, and of course, I don't know them all. I only know the ones I've been in, the ones I've been with. And it blew my mind the last time I was there. These places were packed. And then they sang along to my songs. And I'm like, you were so far from Nashville. I'm not on the radio. How did you find me? So that was the contact I was talking about. And then the other contact is that one-on-one contact in the moment from the stage to these audiences who listened when it got very, very quiet and then made a lot of noise when it was time to do that as well. So that's the contact I'm after. I don't really bother with somebody that, if I'm not their thing, I'm not their thing. I'm more interested in the people that understand what I'm saying and have a heart for it.
It's, I think for a lot of people that might not be too familiar with you and whatever you've done with your career, can you explain to those people, it sounds stupid, but just how known and how popular you are in your own country? Because you played the Grand Ole Opry like a gazillion times. I mean, it's just...
No, you're right. Very few people know how famous I am.
It's just, it sounds like a dumb question, but they think of the perspective of a German. You'd be like, well, yeah.
I'm only kidding. I'm just teasing. I have been doing this for a long time, and along the way, I've been able to be on some shows that attracted some audiences, like something like The Office. I did 8 episodes on the American version of The Office, and that's what I started to find. Years before that, I was on Whose Line Is It Anyway? If you've ever seen the improv show, it had Drew Carey hosting it for a long time. Well, when I was on that, people would come up every so often. I would be in line at the bank, like once a week, maybe. I'd be like, and somebody would go, "You're very funny," and I would be like, "Well, thank you." So it wasn't the kind of fame that ever made anything hard or negative. It was just a nice comment. When I got on The Office, then I saw the power of a hit show that everybody watched. And then I learned one of the things about fame is people would say, "You're very funny on The Office." And I realized I didn't do that much that was funny on The Office. Mostly I was the straight man. I said a couple funny things. But so what I realized is by being on a very funny show, people said, "You're very funny." So that was nice.
Did that propel music? Did that propel the success in music too? It says, just up and up.
for the longest time, I'd never felt like the shows connected. Like I was on some big ones like ER, and years ago I was on Cheers. It was my very first show, and these are older shows by far. I was on Star Trek: The Next Generation, Star Trek Voyager. So I was always doing great and cool things, but they never seemed to connect until The Office. And the difference with The Office is every casting director in Hollywood, every producer watched and loved The Office. And so The Office started getting me better and better work, and finally until it got me on Nashville. And being the star of Nashville, that really changed everything for me. And then that got me on the show Outer Banks, which has been this worldwide Netflix hit, this young adult thriller that just came out during lockdown. And when everybody was locked down with their aunts and their uncles and their grandparents in their homes, on this Netflix comes this show of these gorgeous golden young people chasing adventure and fleeing from a bad man. And so that also opened it up too. But along the way, you're right, I've been able to play on the Grand Ole Opry. The next time I play at the Grand Ole Opry, in about a couple of weeks, it will be my 170th time. And this along the way in this career, it's crazy, isn't it? And along the way in this career, I've been able to do, well, nothing like that. That's pretty singular. That's the most special thing of all, but great.
But that makes you, in our perspective, I guess, a country music superstar.
Well, that's very, very kind. I'm just trying to, it's been a long, wonderful career and a great adventure, but I'm finally back to doing the thing I started. Will I do more acting? Sure. They find a great role for me or something. I go, ooh, I'd like to do that. I'll do that. But as I said, I was a songwriter first. I played music first. So to get to go up and do this, to get to put up my first album, and play those songs on stage at the Grand Ole Opry, and on C2C sort of trips over to Germany. It's kind of amazing. It's kind of amazing.
Nice. You got to tell me one thing. You've been in, I think, 1 or 2 episodes of Married with Children.
It's so funny. That was in my head. I was going to list that, but I thought, he knows Married with Children.
This is such a big cult show over here as well. It still is. It still, means a lot to a lot of people. I talked to my friend, to my buddy yesterday. I said, I'm going to have an interview with Lonnie for married, Al Bundy. And he goes like, what are you talking about? Are you serious? And that's how strong this.
Well, let me tell you, I was not only on 2 episodes, I was in the final 2 episodes of Married with Children. And the final 2 episodes were about my wedding, me getting married to Kelly Bundy. So take that, Germany. And Germany is jealous right now because I know you love Kelly. And it was so much fun. They were so kind. They were so hilarious. I won't spoil it for you and tell you whether we actually ended up getting married or not. But that was a big one for me and a whole lot of fun to be a part of. And I love that you guys know that one.
You should. I wouldn't care about Star Trek, but I know about Married with Children. That's how big.
All right, there you go. Well, there's a whole lot of, you're going to be getting some angry messages now to the Star Trek community. I apologize on his behalf. Please don't get too angry. We know what a great show it was.
So you have your next record already lining up?
I do not. No, I do not.
Come on.
I'm going to spend a little time on this one. I've started writing again for sure because I love doing that, but I have no idea. Although I realized I have, the character Deacon Claiborne had a drinking problem. So sometimes if I'm ever on stage and people see me take a sip of whiskey or a beer, they're like, oh no. And I always say, don't worry, Deacon had a drinking problem, so he could not drink. I do not have a drinking problem, so cheers, everybody. But what I do have is a drinking song problem. I love drinking songs. I love to write them. And I realized just not long ago that I have enough drinking songs to make a whole album.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to call it Drinking Song Problem if I put that out. And it will be an album of, now that's about as country as you can get right there.
You're coming from Pittsburgh.
I was born there. My
Did you
parents
live there?
worked. What's that?
Did you live there?
I did until I was about 7 or about 8.
Oh,
No, yeah, about 8. Between the time I turned 9, I moved to Virginia. So I grew up from 9. For the rest of my life, I was in Northern Virginia, but I still had family in Pittsburgh. I was just there this past weekend. So that's where I got a little bit of country. I have a grandfather from Southern Virginia, and I swear to you, he talked like this. How you doing, son? So that's where a lot of the more country aspects came from. But I'm a product of both for sure.
Interesting. Well, I guess we're pretty much out of time as far as I can.
Well, it's been great. I could do more. Why? I hope. Which city are you out of again?
I'm based in Munich here, Munich, Germany.
Well, if you could come to the show on May 6th, I'll be in April in UK at the end. But then once again, I come to Hamburg, Stuttgart, Munich, and Cologne on May 3rd, 4th, and then 6th and 7th.
Yeah. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be at the Circus Club.
Well, that's fantastic. I'll be in Munich the day off on the 5th. So I'll be wandering around your beautiful city, and
There you go. If you need a travel guide, you're talking to.
I'm going to have my own little Oktoberfest in May. If anybody wants to join me for my Mayfest, you'll find me as I have a song on my album, In a Bar Somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'll see you there, and we'll have a Mayfest.
Well, if we go out drinking, we cannot do this because you need to play the next day. And you know about German beer, so you fix.
I do know about German beer. I also know they trick you. They make the bottom of the mug round, so you can never put your mug down. I'm sorry, your Stein. You can put Stein down. So, but,
It's not that bad. We're not that alcoholic, but
that's what I got at Oktoberfest. I'll never forget. The bottom was rounded, so I walked around for a day, never putting my Stein down. But it was the greatest day I don't remember. Now I look forward to another one. Cannot wait to get back to Germany. I appreciate everybody. I hope all the folks that don't know me and have heard all these things. If you're a big fan of all those any of those shows, please go check out my music, Esten, and on my website you can get tickets and everything you need. Thank you, brother. You have a good evening. Okay.
Yeah, I will, and I'm looking forward to the show in Munich.